And Don Drummond, economist at Queen's University and former chief economist at TD Bank. Don, welcome. What mind are you? What are you expecting to hear in tomorrow's announcement? Will there be a rate cut, or do you think the bank is more likely to hold steady?
I think the least interesting part will be the decision, which will be a non-decision to leave the rate. It's important to note what that rate is, though. It's 2.75, which not by coincidence is the midpoint of what the Bank of Canada estimates to be the neutral rate. So they're basically holding interest rates right at a level that's not stimulating the economy. It's not breaking the economy. It's the equivalent of them all just collectively putting their feet up in the desk and literally doing nothing. We should note the level of all of the interest rates. As you mentioned, people are renewing mortgages. Well, still, most people in Canada have fixed term mortgages, and those go off the bond yields. And most of the bond yields in Canada are a bit over 3%. And yes, that seems high, maybe to people who took a mortgage in the previous 5 years, but by historical standards, that's a very low rate of interest. So the Bank of Canada rate and all the bond yields and hence the mortgage rates by any longer term historical standard are quite low. I think the bank will hold there. What's going to be really interesting to say what they say about the uncertainty, and particularly coming when there may or may not be a trade deal within days of them putting out their release.
So if the bank holds steady as expected, when could the next rate cut possibly come, and what might trigger it?
There certainly will not be a rate cut until they see tangible evidence of a weakening of the economy with some weakening of the inflation. As you noted, the underlying inflation pressures remain significant. The Bank of Canada pays the most attention to three measures that they have of underlying inflation, things that remove the most volatile components, et cetera. So while the headline rate of inflation seems quite low, that's not really a good sign of what the inflation pressures are, because that's brought down by the elimination of the retail carbon tax. The Bank of Canada's underlying measures are around 3%, and they have been for quite a long time. So that's uncomfortably high for the Bank of Canada. Yes, the unemployment rate has gone up, but again, by historical standards at a relatively low level. So I think they'll be waiting for some tangible evidence that inflation's come down. It might, depending on what happens on the tariff side. We have seen weakening of wage pressures. Wages about a year and a half ago were increasing 5% in annual rate. They're a bit over 3%. That should translate in some reduction in inflation pressures, but certainly not this time around, maybe not even the next time around, maybe not until the end of the year. But, that may be good news to have lower interest rates, but keep in mind, it'll only happen if we receive other bad news. It'll only happen if there's tangible evidence of a weakening of the economy.
All right, Don, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much for being here with us today. Appreciate it. That is Don Drummond, economist at Queen's University and former chief economist at TD Bank.